Depression Baby. Stories about growing up in Appalachia and other things too. With my dad, Ray B. Rogers.
On August 16th, 1929, I came into this world kicking and screaming. I reckon that made me a depression baby.
Depression Baby is a World Songs media production. Brought to you by Depression Baby the Book, available in Kindle, paperback, and hardcover, and soon audiobook at raybrogers.com.
Ole Horney and Other Bovine Tales. Ole Horney was our family milk cow for many years, along with Buttercup. However, I will not tell you all about her and how she got her name. Not yet. I will do like the evening newscaster. I'll tell you more later. When I grew up, most people in the towns and cities had their milk delivered to them by a milkman. It was delivered in glass bottles early in the a.m. If they lived on the edge of town, as we did, a lot of families had a cow or two. It was nice to have fresh milk, home-churned butter, and the byproduct, buttermilk. Cows can be a lot of trouble, since they must be milked twice daily. It can certainly interfere with one's social life when you are hanging out with your friends and you have to go home and milk the cows at an appointed hour. Getting up an hour earlier in order to milk the cows before breakfast and before the school bus came was no fun either. In the winter, you had to light a lantern and go out in the coal barn before daylight to do this chore. I have Dad's lantern and the milk stool both restored to perfect condition. Cows have tails for a reason, to brush away the flies. It does not matter that you are sitting on a milk stool beside the cow, milking away. When the cow decides, you may at any time be swatted with a dirty cow's tail. So much for your clean shirt or coat, and your cap may be knocked off to land in you-know-what. Consequently, the long hair of the cow's tail was used to tie the cow's tail to the cow's leg while the milking was in process. Of course, I know you would like to hear more about Ole Horney, but that will come later, just like TV, huh? Granddad Medford lived nearby, and he pastured his cows on a mountain pasture about a mile away from his barn. It was part of the family obligation to go get the 10 or so cows each evening for Granddad. One particular cow, who was brindle in color and who was the boss cow in Granddad's herd, liked to climb to the top of the mountain to graze. She was obstinate and usually would not come down the mountain when called. So I had to climb to the top of the mountain to get her. Even though I felt like chasing old Brindle down the mountain, I couldn't. Granddad would know what I had done, because if you run a cow before milking, she will not give as much milk. Granddad knew exactly how much milk each cow should give. Cows have a pecking order, or to be more accurate, a butting order. When the boss cow or top cow walks up to the feed trough, all of the lesser cows step aside and the boss cow eats her fill. The cow who decides not to move aside promptly gets her butt butted aside, and sometimes it is not a pretty sight. Cows can get a bit vicious with one another as they establish their social standing, and pity the poor cow that is at the bottom of the order who has had her butt whipped by every other cow in the herd. I suppose that by now you are just dying to hear about Ole Horney. Ole Horney had a lot of personality for a cow. We could ride Ole Horney like a horse, and she did not seem to mind. There was a picture made of me riding Ole Horney. It takes a real cowboy to ride a cow. Yes, Ole Horney really was horny, unlike the other cows we owned, hence the name. You see, she had horns. Shucks, what a disappointment to find out her name came because of a physical attribute and for no other reason. Well, I suppose this ends similarly to the evening TV news. With all of the build-up, the suspense, and the waiting, The lead story ends with a great big letdown. Aw, shucks.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of Depression Baby. And if you did, my dad has one important request. If this podcast brought a little smile to your day, would you please consider right now subscribing for free to the podcast and kindly leaving a nice 5-star rating and review on iTunes. You can make the difference in getting Depression Baby in front of a wider audience and help preserve this disappearing legacy. If you need any help with how to subscribe to the podcast, just go to raybrogers.com and look for the podcast tab on the main menu. Thanks to our audio and musical contributors, including our friend Lobo Loco. You can find out more about him and all the rest of the music and audio in the show notes at, you guessed it, raybrogers.com. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time on the Depression Baby Podcast.